St. Simon's Island, nestled on the southeastern coast of Georgia, is a beautiful island, and from people that live on the island is said to be an amazing place to raise kids. So families really love this island, but there are 5 things that you should consider before making your move. And that's what we are going to talk about today. Hi, I'm Cassie Long with Horizon Realty, and I help individuals and families just like you relocate right here to South Coastal Georgia. Seriously, I get calls, texts, emails every single day. So if you're thinking of making a move, all of my information is down in the description box below. Please reach out. I would love to help you make that move. All right, we are gonna dive right in with 5 things to consider when making your move. And the first one is tourist season. So yes, there are a lot of families and individuals that live here on the island full time, but there are also a lot of vacationers that come here. So there is a pretty good mix of primary residential homes and then also vacation homes. So tourist season is really from about mid-March, maybe beginning of March, when spring break season really starts for elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. So about March all the way through, I would say about October, when fall break kind of, happens in October. We do get some people that, travel during the holidays and everything, but for the most part, tourist season is about March to October. So during those heightened seasons, you can really expect a lot more traffic on the island. Overall, it's not a very large island, and it is like one big loop. So it's not very large, so traffic does seem to get a little bit backed up, especially in the bulk of the season, which would be summer, June, and July. You can definitely expect more traffic, and you can also expect longer wait times. So if you live here full time, and you are going out to eat, you definitely can expect to wait longer during those seasons, June and July more specifically. And the other thing to consider about tourist season is, of course, our beaches being crowded. There are a lot of access points here on St. Simon's Island where you can go to the beach. 2 of the main areas are Massingale Park and also Coast Guard Beach. So both of those have a large amount of parking available, and then you can just walk right onto the beach. But during June and July specifically, those are going to be very crowded. So you will quickly find that there are a couple secretive places that you can go if you live here full time that will provide easier access as far as just walking right up versus getting in the huge hustle and bustle of parking and it being overly crowded. The second thing to consider is that the access to St. Simon's Island is a causeway, and you do not have to pay to go over the causeway. So there is no toll, so it is free, which also plays into a part of why the beaches are a little bit more crowded than, say, maybe Jekyll Island. You do have to pay a toll to get onto Jekyll Island. So St. Simon's Island, people will come, just from locally too, not just tourists, quote unquote, come over from Brunswick to go to that beach, because it is free to get on and free for all of the beaches except for Sea Island. That is a private beach. So if you want your own private beach access, then definitely reach out about living on Sea Island, which is located on St. Simon's Island, and that definitely will give you that secluded beach access. But otherwise, you can expect crowded beaches due to the fact that it's free. But back to the main point of this one, that is the causeway. There is one way on and one way off. That means that you can expect traffic delays at certain times. I mean, for the most part, it's pretty fluid, on and off, very easy. But say there is an accident and they need to move everybody over to one lane, that is going to cause major traffic delays. There have been multiple times where I was working over on the island coming from Brunswick and physically could not make it there in time due to accidents or road closures, things like that. So that's just a small thing to consider, but definitely something you want to think about when making the move. Also consider commute times. There aren't that many jobs available on St. Simon's Island, so it's likely that you might be working over in Brunswick or maybe even Jacksonville or Savannah if you have a more corporate style job. Lastly, the last thing to consider about the Causeway is in case of a hurricane or a tropical storm, which we have gotten. You know, we have a hurricane season down here. Now, depending on that season, we don't know how hard we're gonna get hit. It's never a direct hurricane hit really, but tropical storm weather and winds do happen, and flooding especially does happen. And oftentimes the Causeway will close during those high tropical storm times. So that's definitely something to consider. And the third thing to consider is the school district. So St. Simon's Island is located within Glenn County. So on the island, you have 2 elementary schools. You have Oglethorpe Point Elementary School, which services the north end of the island, and then you've got St. Simon's Elementary School, which is the south end of the island. And so those are the only 2 schools, public schools on the island. All of your middle schools and your high schools will be over the Causeway in Glenn County in Brunswick. So that is also something to consider as far as commute time when you really start factoring in where you'll be working, starting with living, working, dropping kids off at school. There are school buses obviously that come over the Causeway to pick the kids up, but if you enjoy dropping your kids off, that is something to consider. There is also a private school on St. Simon's Island where a lot of families send their kids, and that is Frederica Academy, and that is right there, easily accessible on the island, and they have all grades. So if that is something that you are more accustomed to, a private school education, and you want something right there on the island where they can go every single day, Frederica Academy is right there. Number 4, the slower pace of life. So if you are coming from a larger city, this might be a little bit of a shock to you because it definitely is a slower pace of life, not only in terms of, you know, less traffic in in comparison to a larger city. We don't have that normal, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. traffic. There might be a little bit if you're, in a highly congested area, maybe say near Frederica Academy when they are first going in. Yes, there's going to be a little bit of a backup, but I wouldn't consider it high traffic, just on a day-to-day basis, like a big city like Atlanta or Jacksonville or Savannah. But it is a slower pace of life, so people just move more slowly. So if you are someone who's trying to get to work, and then there's all of these tourists who are here visiting, which is awesome, that is great, they're on vacation, but they are not in a hurry like you might be, trying to get your kids to school and then get to work on time and run the errands and do all the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. They're just moseying around on their golf cart or they're riding a bike. And on St. Simon's Island, there are a number of roundabouts, which, are great. They provide the flow for traffic and everything. But you also have to consider that people are not always used to these roundabouts, and so they don't necessarily know how to use them when they come here. Or there's crosswalks for people that are biking, or there's golf carts with car seats in the golf carts just riding around on the roundabouts. So you do have to be a bit more careful and cautious, and just really consider that it's a slower pace of life. So if you are always accustomed to being in a hurry, it's definitely something that you will need to adjust to as people just move more slowly. But also going with that is just, people are really, really nice here. So it's not uncommon to be in the grocery store and have people just spark up a conversation and things like that. So if you like that small, tight-knit community feel, then you will really love living on St. Simon's Island. And lastly, rental prices. So in Brunswick, we have what is called FLETC, and that is the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. And they get new students and instructors that come in, sometimes 6 months at a time, sometimes 2 or 3 years, and sometimes permanently. But they get an influx of students and they get a stipend for housing. So that really contributes to our rental prices here, both in Brunswick and St. Simon's Island. A lot of FLETC students choose to rent on St. Simon's Island because they get a large sum for their housing, so they can rent on St. Simon's Island. But what that means to the average renter is not so great. For those of us that do not get a monthly housing stipend, now the rental prices have been driven up due to the amount of money that FLETC students do receive and can rent it out for. So for instance, there's a house on the market right now for sale. I don't primarily do rentals, but for sale, and it's listed at like 2 point something million, and it's a double. So the top is like a 3 bed, 2 bath, and the bottom is like a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. And they rent out the top or the bottom to a FLETC student for $5,000 a month. So if you think you're going to rent on St. Simon's Island, just consider that your rental price might be a little bit higher than what you're used to, just due to the fact that, you know, all of the rental prices can be just inflated, I guess, if you will. So that is something to consider, that not only are rental prices, you know, higher, but so is just the average cost of living as far as housing and just every single day, because of all of the vacationers and tourists that we do get throughout the season. And just like any other town, there are pros and cons to living right here on St. Simon's Island, and you can learn more about that by watching this video right here. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel to learn more about living in the Golden Isles of Georgia. I hope to hear from you soon.